what's up, everybody? Welcome into Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast. Phil Perry alongside. Patriots are getting ready for the AFC Championship game at Denver. It has been a house of horrors out there. We're going to dive deep into that matchup. Don't you worry about it. But I still think it's important for us, for me and Phil, to look at the historic season unfolding. And Phil, Mike Vrabel doesn't want to get into the history right now. He wants everyone to keep their perspective.
Yeah, I just try to keep it all in perspective. I want them to enjoy everything about this, but we have to also embrace the preparation and everything that's required to get us to this point, and then, being able to perform and being able to go on the road in a hostile environment. So as far as messaging, I have some time till Wednesday to kind of land the plane on that, but I'm sure it'll be pretty consistent with what we've done up until then.
Mike, that's your job. Our job, though, is to go ass over tea kettle, making a big deal about everything. And ladies and gentlemen, take a look here. These are the 5 greatest one-season improvements in history, at least Super Bowl era history, which began in 1967, 68, whatever. There you see the Niners in 81. I remember that season. 6-10 to 13-3. They win a Super Bowl with Joe Montana. 01 Patriots, that would be number 2, 5-11 to 11-5. They won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady. 99 Rams, 4-12 to 13-3. They won a Super Bowl with Kurt Warner. 08 Dolphins, 1-15 to 11-5. They got an MVP vote from me for Chad Pennington. And the 99 Colts, 3-13 to 13-3. With Payton Manning under center after leading the league in picks, he came back and had that kind of season. Developing the Patriots 4-13 to 14-3 and into the AFC Championship game. So far, I'd say they're better than the Dolphins and they're better than the Colts because they've gotten to this point. Phil, are the Patriots already an historic story?
Yeah, of course. Of course they are, given the nature of their turnaround, given how well they have performed, week schedule or not, given that they might end up having the most valuable player in the league and have that player, Drake May, have one of the best seasons for a player his age in the history of the sport. Mm-hmm. And that is not an exaggeration. Yes, this is already an incredible story, a historic story, if you want to call it that, Tom. There's no question.
Let's delve into the reasons why. One more time, for the hell of it. Here's my 3 main reasons why. Throw it up there. Again, we're going to get to Denver. We got all week. I just do think it's important to look at the import of what we're watching. Important, just redundant son of a biscuit shooter. Head coach and staff change. That is the number one reason.
Biscuit shooter. Sorry. Amazing
personnel reboot. Elite quarterback play. No coincidence that when these teams have had their the most historic turnarounds in NFL history, it's Montana, it's Brady, it's Warner, it's Manning, all of whom are Hall of Famers. Elite quarterback play. Chad Pennington has not gotten into the Hall of Fame yet, but I love him. Second reason, that I mentioned was the personnel reboot. Let's take a look at the defensive ads. Milton Williams, Harold Landry, Caleb Chason, Robert Spillane, Carlton Davis, Craig Woodson drafted, Kyrus Tonga, Jack Gibbons at the linebacker level. Then on offense, Mac Hollins, Stephon Diggs, Travion Henderson, Morgan Moses, Will Campbell, Bradbury in the center, Jared Wilson, Kyle Williams, Borregales is your kicker. The links to the Belichick era that remain: Demario Douglas, Christian Gonzalez, Kayshon Boutte, Marcus Jones, Onwenu, Tavai, Stevenson, Hunter Henry. Phil, let's just digest that a little bit. As this team has made this turnaround, they changed virtually wholesale, the roster. You can't say that this team was just ready to explode when it left the field last January. It just was not. It was not an untapped resource. It had 2 players. It had May and it had Gonzalez.
I think that's fair. I think what we've seen, though, in part because of some of the additions they've made that have helped elevate the players around them, in part because of the coaching staff changes, you have seen other carryovers perform better than we expected. Kayshon Boutte has to be at or near the top of the list when it comes to that kind of thing. I think Marcus Jones has had his best season as a pro. Jelani Tavai, when he's been out there. Christian Ellis. Somebody who has been here for a couple of years now and has never been as good as he he's played to this point in the year. So, all of those additions, while additions in a vacuum and the types of players that are contributing to this historic run, they've helped make guys that were already in the room for some really bad football teams play their best football.
Is this why teams sometimes will give up a first-round pick, or as in the Patriots or Jets case, the Jets gave up 4 picks for Bill Parcells back in the day. The Patriots later on gave up a first-round pick for Bill Belichick. This is why you do that. The coach can make that radical a difference. And again, we can talk about May, but if May didn't have the coaching that he's had this year with McDaniels, and the offensive line didn't have the coaching with Doug Marrone and the stability, he wouldn't be having this season. That's why I really truly believe that the early parts of these dynasties, whether it's Kurt Warner with Dick Vermeil and then Mike Martz, who was a genius, whether it's Bill Walsh with Joe Montana or Brady and Belichick. Manning's kind of an outlier. He was with Jim Mora and then switched over to Tony Dungy, who tapped into it. But, this early portion of this Patriots run, let's call it a run, not calling it a dynasty, it's Vrabel propelled. It's Vrabel and culture propelled.
And I think it's, I agree with you because I think one of the great strengths of this team, and maybe its most important, maybe its most critical attribute, aside from the play that it's gotten from its quarterback, I still will put that number one, is their resiliency. And I think that's culture-driven. I think that's identity-driven. I think that is Mike Vrabel-driven. This is a team that has been, when I use the word resiliency, under that umbrella falls focus. Mm-hmm. And this is a team that has had many opportunities to lose sight of what is right there in front of them. And they haven't done it. We've been waiting. You and I have talked on this podcast and elsewhere about, is this the week they're going to lay an egg? They should win this week. On paper, they're better. They should continue this thing. But at some point, they're just going to let go of the rope for a week, right? Mm-hmm. Right? And they almost never did. Maybe for a half or two somewhere along the line.
Cincinnati, I think, qualified borderline.
That second half against the Bills, maybe at home, and that second matchup there, it's those spurts are few and far between, and they don't last long. And that is a huge credit to Mike Vrabel.
I mentioned on Postgame Live yesterday that I have a beagle. His name is Bo Curran. And Bo, as anyone who's had a hound, or maybe a dog who likes to sniff, understands beagles, all they want to do is smell things, and once they smell something, they're going to keep their head down, their ears shut off. Basically, they can't hear their names. They pay no attention to anything in the world around them except for that smell, and they stay on that smell. And what Vrabel has done this year, metaphorically, is created a beagle and put it on the scent of whatever they're going to end with. They might track down the juiciest rabbit they've ever found. They might wander into traffic and get bopped before they get to that rabbit. Tough metaphor it's turned into here. Not wishing that on any dog.
It's gone very dark.
But they have shut out everything except the next opponent. They are on the trail. And you give them credit because just as Vrabel said at the beginning about keeping perspective when you got, we cover the team, spend a lot of time, folks listen to us, they listen to the radio, they should be hearing celebrations of what has happened because for all the seasons in NFL history, this is one of the most rare ones that you're watching. And the interesting thing about it is, while people will rightfully scrutinize how the Patriots went from 4-13 to 14-3 and now 16-3 with the 2 playoff wins and say, yeah, but ... When you look at those details, you're not seeing the forest for the trees. You got to look at what's actually happening and the foundation that's being laid because of the team that they have in place. You have a team with more cap space than 2/3 of the league, a team with a coaching staff that's stable and not taking interviews all over creation, a rookie contract quarterback, and a crap ton of draft picks. So this is not smoke and mirrors this season, and it's sustainable.
It certainly looks that way. At the same time, again, and this gets back to that Vrabel conversation, you do have to, the perspective of we might never get back here, I think is an important one. some people may view that as pessimistic, and I certainly would understand that. If I'm a Patriots fan right now, I am envisioning 20 years of being near the top of the league, and there's no reason for you not to. But I think it is important to, as a football team, make sure that you don't fall into that trap, that you are seizing the moment. And it really does truly feel like they have done that, which, again, to be wrapped up in a season as unexpected as this one, at least for those of us on the outside, to not really get lost in to not get swept up in the positive, and to be able to keep your head down the way they have, I think it's one of the reasons they're still here and they're still playing.
I think that the biggest criticism that Patriots fans should have right now, and I mean this, is that the Patriots are not 19-0. They should be 19-0. They have annihilated virtually every horrible team that they've seen. They're undefeated on the road. Had they not peed down their leg in the opener and had a bad turnover coming out of halftime against the Raiders, they would have won that game. Had they not had 5 turnovers against the Steelers in a highly winnable game that by every measure that you go into the analytics, they should have won that game by 10 points. Okay, that's the second. And then they should have been able to hold on to a ridiculously outsized lead they had against the Buffalo Bills.
So the takeaway is Patriots fans should be very upset about the 2025 season.
Angry.
Yeah.
Angry.
Yeah,
and when people sit there and say,
Mm-hmm.
Hey, this Patriots team hasn't done it, they should be 19-0, okay? If people want to talk about that, whatever. But you could also point out, you're lucky the team's not 19-0. If you want to be a Patriots fan, if you really want to be a dink, and I'm sure that you do, I mean, we do share the geographic, connection of being up here. You want to be a dink. Honestly, we kind of should be 19-0. So they should. Think about that. Not only should they be 19-0, they might have been able to, had they not lost those 3 games, they might have been able to reel off like 35 in a row. Because look at the disarray around the National Football League, the American Football Conference in particular. Throw this up there, please, for me, will you? It's the NFL.com preseason power rankings for the AFC teams. I'm just on the AFC teams focusing. We got the Ravens. They were the 2nd seed. We got the Bills. They were the 3rd seed, not seed, but they were ranked 3rd in the power rankings. Chiefs, Broncos, Bengals, Texans, Chargers, Steelers, Patriots down there at 22. Ravens have no head coach. The Bills are also headless. The Chiefs are in decline to an extent. Broncos, okay, they're okay. Bengals, decline. Texans, they got an issue. Houston, we have a problem at quarterback. Chargers, not buying. Steelers, they also do not have a head coach. And the Patriots, they are in the right place at the right time with the most sustainable situation. They're in a division now, Phil, that has 2 vacancies and a coach who probably should have been fired in Aaron Glenn. Phil, it's never going to end. This is the beginning of another 25-year run. This might go until 2051.
Maybe they'll just go undefeated every year between now and then. If we follow your logic.
I would be 83 if they went on another 25-year run.
I mean, they may never lose again after listening to you. I just feel as though you should be learning from the situation that is right in front of your nose, Mr. Beagle. How quickly could it turn around for some of these teams? How quickly might it turn around for a team that, I don't know, finished last in the division even this year?
No, I don't think it's happening.
They get the right quarterback and the right coach. Listen, a lot has to happen for things to fall into place.
For them to win 35 straight?
The way that for any team to find itself in a situation that the Patriots are in right now, how many things had to go right? The number of free agent signings that went right, the number of draft picks that went right for them, the fact that the quarterback is on a historic run and they got what looks like one of the best head coaches in the league. So that's a lot of boxes to check in one off season. I'm not saying it's going to happen. But you, sir, you need to leave open the possibility that this might happen to some of those other teams in the AFC.
I do think we can agree on the fact that they should be 19-0. Coming up after the break, we will dive headlong into that matchup with the Denver Broncos. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back in. It's Bold Proclamation Tuesday on the Patriots Talk podcast. The Denver Broncos will not lose on Sunday because of Jarrett Stidham. Yeah, they should be 19-0. Meanwhile, here's Sean Payton on Stiddy.
So it started with our evaluation in New Orleans of, he was a target for us in the draft. That doesn't really mean anything other than we like this player coming out. I know how he was coached in New England. I know exactly how he was coached in New England. And then I know how McDaniels felt about him when he brought him from New England to Vegas. And then I know reports on how he played, and then we saw him play real time. But ultimately, and to answer your question, it's our 3 years here, in our 3 years watching him day in and day out, that you guys don't have access to. And so he will be ready to go and ready for the moment.
They might lose because of Jarrett Stidham. Okay, here's his last 4 starts, and his only 4 starts in the National Football League. On January 1st, 2023, Phil, against the Niners, 23 for 34. You see it right there, Phil. 365, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. They lost in overtime, 37-34. Came back the next week. Boy, he took a beating from the KC Chiefs. 6 sacks. Still won 22 for 36. Touchdown and a pick. They lost handily. Then Stiddy went to the Broncos. And you see what happened there. End of the 23 season against the Chargers. He secured himself a win. 20 for 32, 224, touchdown, no picks, 1 sack. And then against the Raiders at the end of that 2023 season, just 2 years ago, that's all. 20 for 34, 272, 5 sacks. They lose 27-14. Phil, I'm just saying, I think a healthy respect for a guy with a good arm who's been in the league for a while, who's hungry for an opportunity, who most importantly is playing for Sean Payton. Most importantly, you got to give him at least a healthy amount of respect.
I think you give him respect insofar as there's an opportunity there for him to not lose the game for them.
Mm-hmm.
They might be able to win it on defense. I think their defense is that good. They have what's interesting to me and makes them a little bit different than the Texans is while their edge rushers are not as otherworldly as Houston's, I like the depth that they have up front, really across the board. I think if you can get those guys in one-on-one situations against the Patriots' offensive line, that's going to be a real challenge. And they have some all-pro talent in the secondary too. So if you're Jarrett Stidham, you're just hoping to play the field position game, take what the Patriots give you, keep your hands on 10-2, limit the turnovers to maybe 1. And if you can do that, then I think you do have a real shot. I would not sit here and say that the Patriots are going to win this game no matter what. I think it just is going to be very difficult for Denver because the Patriots' defense, to me, is championship caliber. And a championship caliber defense against a backup quarterback, that's not a great formula for Denver.
Wouldn't you want Stidrock, Jay Stid, to go and do what he does well? Throw the ball. I mean, he does have probably as good an arm as most of the starters in the league. He throws the ball with velocity, pretty accurate. His problem with the Patriots would be, wow, good throw. Pick. That would be in practice. Remember 2020?
Sure.
During COVID? He was having electric practices, and then he'd just go on a jag of bad throws and picks.
I just think if the ball is in his hands and you're forcing him to make good decision after good decision after good decision, that's going to work out for New England.
Yeah, but if you're playing a little soft as a result, so you have a decision. If you're forcing him to make good decision after good decision, are you saying let him check it down and make decisions? Because that gets somebody into a groove. And next thing you know, they're 6 for 7 for 71 yards, and they feel pretty good about themselves.
For somebody who hasn't played in essentially 2 years, my guess would be you would want to make him feel uncomfortable. So I would not be playing soft. I would be, I think, rolling out a really similar game plan to what you've had the last 2 weeks, which has been, how can we bother this guy? I asked Mike Vrabel on Monday, what's up with all the blitzes? It seems as though you're doing more of that these last couple of weeks than you did in the regular season, more aggressive, sending more people at the line of scrimmage. Why? Just trying to get some pressure on the quarterback. And it was a very simple answer, but I think he's also maybe telling you something there, which is they don't have world beaters across the board if they just decide to rush four. Milton Williams is a great player. Caleb Von Jason's coming off a great game. Christian Barmore, I think, has been a little bit hit or miss in terms of pass rush, and Harold Landry just hasn't been the same guy since he's been banged up and he's missing practice. And so I think they're telling you, in order to bother quarterbacks, they feel like it's a great idea for them to blitz. And so I think you're going to see the same thing against Denver, and you're going to force Jarrett Stidham to make quick decisions against really good secondary players who are going to be playing in tight coverage, and that, to me, is going to yield success for the Patriots defense.
The problem for that pressure package is the fact that they're going against the best offensive line they will have seen.
Yes.
You got McGlinchey, Quinn Miners, Garrett Bowles are in that lineup, all of whom are well-regarded, big-ticket linemen. So it's not going to be as easy as it was against a depleted and sometimes porous Houston Texans offensive line, and certainly the misfit toys of the Chargers.
I think you're 100% right. This is a very good offensive line. They should be able to run the ball more effectively, certainly, than the Houston Texans were able to. Their injuries up front and their personnel up front, boy, that was just a dominant performance on the defensive's part for New England against the run. So Denver will be better in that regard. But, Tom, I think you could make the argument that a good offensive line would be a reason to blitz even more.
Get more pressure, because if you're just doing it with four and they're locking it up,
then you're giving J-Stid, as you might say, all the time in the world to feel comfortable and say to himself, hey, this is just like practice.
Yes.
I know I haven't played a game in 2 years, but I've been practicing like hell. Like, I'm used to this. You don't want to allow him all that space and time.
Keep it going, Stidrock. All right. Meanwhile, the Denver defense. You've heard a lot about them already, which you should, just as you should have with the Houston defense. Just because the Patriots won that game 28-16, that was not a massive undressing of the Texans defense. As we said Sunday night, they came as advertised. They were a friggin' problem. They harassed, and it took outstanding plays by Drake May, who, again, after the first matchup of this postseason, I thought he played really well for a first time out. I think he played pretty well yesterday. Certainly wasn't less than a B-. Ball handling took all his points away.
Yes.
All his points away.
Sure.
With the Denver defense, take a look at some of these team-wide defensive statistics. Yards per game, 278.2, second only to Houston. Rushing yards per game, 91.2. So tough sledding against them. Sacks per pass attempt, they're first in the league, 11.47. So every you know what that means. Third down, second in the league, 33. Red zone, first in the league, 42.5. And they are third in points per game. Interestingly, the points per game leaders are Seattle, Houston, Denver, Patriots. So they stop the run. They rush the passer. They're good in the red zone. Lather, rinse, repeat. Same thing as Houston. Same thing to a degree as the Chargers. All the Patriots need to do to be better is get a little bit better on third down and try to avoid, if you can, not making a big deal about it, but try not to drop the ball.
That, I think, is a good place to start. And there were a couple of instances where I think you could look at Drake May and say, we got to do a better job of securing the football here. The one where he is running on the broken play against the Texans. There was another where he was moving around in the pocket trying to reset and launch down the field. That was when Daniil Hunter batted out of his hand, went all the way to the goal line, and Will Campbell ended up recovering it there. Ended up being a really big play, that recovery by Campbell. Campbell's 2 strip sacks, Tom, interesting to me because you had one where he was supposed to have help from Travion Henderson. He tried to chip on the edge, kind of whiffed, and then went out into his route. Campbell ends up getting beat. Strip sack. The next was Campbell on an island. And I wonder if Josh McDaniels saw the first one and said, if we're not going to be able to make contact on the chip here, why are we even going to try to chip? So, Will, good luck. And that one didn't go great either. So I think if you have Ramondre Stevenson out there and healthy, they obviously lost him against Houston with an eye injury for a little while. If you have him out there, I think you have to make the most of his presence, and part of his value is what he can do for you in pass protection. And these guys, I think they will do a great job of creating one-on-ones, the Broncos will, because when you look at their front, Zach Allen, John Franklin Myers, Jonathan Cooper, Nick Bonito, those are all plus pass rushers. And they're going to blitz more than the Texans did. They're not as much of a do what we do kind of team. They're going to be a little bit harder to guess and to figure out what's going on pre-snap. So I look at all of those factors, and I say ball security has to be at a premium. You have to be able to at least get a punt off. Get the ball to Bryce to steal a line from our guy, Tommy Curran.
To kick at altitude.
Because I think your defense is...
To kick at altitude.
Well, because your defense, my thought here, overarching, just over the course of the first 2 postseason games, and the same will hold true in Denver. Their defense is good enough to essentially win it for them. You're going to have to make a couple plays offensively, but really the winning strategy to me is don't lose it offensively.
Patriots are going to have to operate that way too. I've been to Denver many, many times. First time, I think, was 97. I've seen some really interesting games, some Drew Bledsoe games out there. Saw the 2003 snap it off the goalpost. I saw an epic game in 2000. Actually, I didn't go to that game. I was not traveling to non-AFC East opponents in 2001 when Brady was electric and then threw eventually 4 picks in the second half. What a great game, though. You want to find a great Brady game from the rise in 2001? Find the Denver game.
4 picks in the second half?
4 picks down the stretch.
I mean, that is some kind of electric.
Before that, he threw a touchdown pass down the middle, and he ran down the field and got in the face of John Mobley, who was one of the scariest linebackers in the league. And they actually used it on a referee's coaching tape the next year for don't do this. It's a very hard place to play. The noise is intense. 2015 was one of the worst thrashings I've ever seen a human except Tom Brady. We can talk about Josh Allen and the beating or Herbert taking this year. I've never seen a 3-hour thrashing of a quarterback like I saw given to Brady that day. So it's not going to be easy for them. I did want to squeeze in this, though. It doesn't really jive. Here's Sean Payton talking about changes that might have to be employed for Jarrett Stidham offensively.
Most teams in the NFL, if they lose their QB1, all bets are off, and that doesn't appear to be the case with you guys. Do you not have to drastically change your game plan or your truncate your playbook as you switch over to Jarrett?
I don't believe in your opening statement. I understand where it's coming from, but historically speaking, all bets weren't off with Hostetler. They weren't off in Philly. When we lost Breeze at the midseason against the Rams and Bridgewater won 5 in a row, all bets can be off. They weren't off for Houston this year when Mills came in, and I don't know. I don't know if he lost the game. And so now, I think to your second question, you're dead on. I think the plan's always got to be built around the type and the skill set of the players you're playing with. And so are there certain things that Bo does differently than Stiddy? Absolutely. And that's where the work begins tonight.
I just wanted you people to hear that. I thought it was interesting. Okay. We're going to now do another, we're going to whip the wheel back to playing on the road. Mike Vrabel talking about altitude, which again is something out there. It's not nothing.
Other than going out there last Thursday, which wouldn't have been an ideal situation considering we had to play last night. But, I think just physiologically you have to be at altitude for longer than a day or 2 or 3. I mean, it takes time to do that. And, so, we'll do what we've always done. We'll travel and, be in condition and be ready to play. And that's kind of about what it is.
All right, Phil, last topic here. You're a big strapping guy. Did you find it hard to move around all that weight you're carrying out there in Denver?
Yeah, I probably could have, but I didn't want to try. I'm very much I'm a big injury prevention guy, so not looking to get real active.
Best way to prevent them is to do nothing at all.
100%.
All right, folks, we're not going to do nothing at all this week. We got an AFC Championship game to get you ready for. Patriots looking to get to 20-0. Oh, my mistake. They lost 3 games they shouldn't have. Looking to get to 17-3. Enjoy us this week. Phil, you get next bets, right?
Oh, yeah.
We get quick slants.